A very good evening to everyone. I extend a warm welcome on behalf of the Solve Foundation to everyone present here today for today's Journey to Safety webinar series on the topic CPR and basic life support. Let me kick off today's session with a brief introduction of the Indian Road Safety Campaign, following which I will hand over the session to Dr. Maya Tandon and then to Dr. Sanjay Shah. I request all the participants to please post your questions or queries in the chat box, which I will take it up in the end. The Indian Road Safety Campaign is the initiative of Solve Foundation, working towards making roads safer in India. Started as a project at IIT Delhi due to the death of students in a road accident, IRSE has gradually grown to be the largest youth-led organization in India. IRSE has been working in close association with organizations such as UN, WHO, Ministry of Road Transportation and Highways, various state governments, and other research centers across the world in its endeavor towards Vision Zero. To achieve this, the IRSE has worked with over 1,500 colleges and over 2,500 volunteers in over 50 plus cities in India and across various domains such as awareness, technical innovation, law, order, policy, medical, etc. The Indian Road Safety Campaign has launched the Journey to Safety webinar series to bring all the stakeholders of road safety in one platform, where we try to spread awareness about the importance of road safety and the protocols that one needs to ensure. Our eminent speakers for today are Dr. Maya Tandon, Chairperson of Sahayata. She is superannuated from SMS Medical College, Jaipur as Head of Department of Anesthesiology and also served as the Superintendent at J. Kilon Hospital, Jaipur. Having a medical background, especially in anesthesia and exposure of handling critically injured RTA victims in the ICU at SMS Medical College, Jaipur, she conceptualizes a basic life-saving course as per norms of the American Heart Association and European Resuscitation Council guidelines, and now imparting trainings on how to save the life of a road accident victim. Joining her is Dr. Sanjay Shah. He is the HOD of Emergency Department and a Senior Consultant Trauma Surgeon at Apollo Hospitals, Ahmedabad. He is also the first qualified trauma surgeon in India. He is also the current president of Indian Association of Traumatology and Critical Care, a section of Association of Surgeons of India. He holds a special interest in management of polytrauma patients, especially chest and abdominal injuries, head and vascular injuries. Without further delay, let me hand over the session to Dr. Maya Tandon. Over to you, ma'am.
Thanks, Sanjay. Yes, Sanjay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Sanjay?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay.
Dr. Maya, we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I'm going to share the film Aakhir Kab Tak, which is being produced by us, followed by a presentation, which will be short because whatever I am covering in the film, I am not going to repeat it again. There are so many things which we have discussed with Dr. Shah also that there is no duplication due to short of time. So first of all, I'll just start my film, which is there.
विकसित देशों के मुकाबले विकासशील देशों में दुर्घटना के बाद मृत्यु का
Is the volume
प्रतिशत
enough?
बहुत ज्यादा है। भारत में ये प्रतिशत लगभग 10 गुना ज्यादा है, जिसका सबसे बड़ा कारण है वक्त पर प्राथमिक
Is the
उपचार
volume
का
enough?
नहीं मिलना।
Yes, ma'am.
Sanjay,
Yes,
can-
ma'am. It's enough.
Okay, fine.
शहर की मुख्य सड़क पर तेज गति से आ रही एक कार ने आगे चल रही मोटरसाइकिल को टक्कर मार दी। रफ्तार इतनी तेज थी कि बाइक सवार उछलकर 10 फीट दूर जा गिरा। हेलमेट के बेल्ट बंधी हुई नहीं होने से हेलमेट दूर जा गिरा। अरे ये तो वही एक्सीडेंट है जो मेरी कार से हुआ था।
अरे देखना, ये तो वही खबर है ना जो एक्सीडेंट कल अपने सामने हुआ था।
हाँ यार, बेचारे को चोट तो बहुत लगी थी कल।
दुर्घटना स्थल पर मोटरसाइकिल सवार का सामान बिखरा पड़ा था, जिसमें बच्चों के खिलौने भी थे। शायद वह व्यक्ति अपने बच्चों के हंसते चेहरे देखने की आस में खिलौने लेकर घर जा रहा था, लेकिन इस एक हादसे ने न केवल उन बच्चों के चेहरे से हंसी छीन ली, अपितु उस परिवार का सहारा भी छीन लिया।
कार चालक दुर्घटना में घायल व्यक्ति की मदद करने की बजाय कार भगाकर चला गया।
दुर्घटना हो जाने के बाद घायल की मदद करने के बजाय वाहन चालक भाग जाते हैं। क्यों क्यों क्यों?
अरे वो आदमी बहुत तेजी से आ रहा था, उसी ने पीछे से टक्कर मार दी इसको।
अरे एक बार वो कार वाला रुका भी था, फिर तेजी से भाग गया।
देखना इसके यार बहुत चोट लगी।
लेकिन यार उस आदमी की इतनी चोट तो लगी नहीं थी ना कि उसकी मौत हो जाए।
हाँ देखो जरा उसकी मौत का कारण क्या रहा, पढ़ो जरा खबर।
हाँ, उसमें लिखा है कि थोड़ी देर में दुर्घटना स्थल पर राहगीरों की भीड़ लग गई, लेकिन भीड़ तमाशबीन की तरह तमाशा देखती रही, किसी ने घायल की मदद नहीं की।
मैं वहां मौजूद था, पर मैं उसकी क्या मदद कर सकता था?
क्या हम इतने संवेदनहीन हो गए हैं कि घायल की मदद करने से कतराते हैं?
लेकिन हम उसकी मदद कर भी कैसे सकते थे? किसी कानूनी पचड़े में पड़ जाते तो?
किसी की जान जा रही होती है, पर वहां मौजूद लोग मदद करने से डरते हैं। क्यों क्यों क्यों?
अरे भाई जिसने टक्कर मारी थी उसको भी तो रुकना चाहिए था, उसे तो घायल की मदद करनी चाहिए थी कि नहीं?
दुर्घटना करने वाला वाहन चालक घायल की मदद करना भी चाहे तो हम उससे मारपीट करने लगते हैं। क्यों क्यों क्यों?
मुझसे बहुत बड़ी गलती हो गई। मैं उसकी मदद तो करना चाहता था, पर मैं डर गया था कहीं लोग मेरे साथ मारपीट न करने लग जाएं।
क्या हम इतने नासमझ हैं कि एम्बुलेंस को रास्ता भी नहीं देते? क्यों क्यों क्यों?
गलती से भी हमारी गाड़ी के नीचे कोई चूहा या बिल्ली भी आ जाए ना, बहुत दुख होता है कि हमारी वजह से एक जीव की मौत हो गई।
और अपनी वजह से किसी इंसान की मौत हो जाए तो हे भगवान, यह हादसा मेरे साथ बनेगा।
आपने मरीज को लाने में बहुत देर कर दी। सॉरी हम उसे बचा न सके।
आखिर कब तक सड़क हादसों में लोग यूं ही दम तोड़ते रहेंगे? क्या हम इतने पत्थर दिल हो गए हैं कि किसी घायल की मदद करना ही नहीं चाहते, या फिर हम जानते ही नहीं कि मदद कैसे की जा सकती है?
जीवन में छोटी छोटी घटनाएं बड़े हादसों का रूप ले सकती हैं। थोड़ी सी समझदारी और जानकारी से कई जिंदगियां बचाई जा सकती हैं।
दुर्घटना अनुसंधान टीम और डॉक्टरों के अनुसार यदि घायल को वक्त पर प्राथमिक उपचार मिल जाता और समय रहते अस्पताल पहुंचा दिया जाता तो उसकी जान बचाई जा सकती थी। कैसे?
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 आपने टक्कर मारी इस आदमी को?
हाँ,
मेरी कार से।
अबे देख के नहीं चला जा सकते क्या?
मैं मानता हूँ मेरी गलती है, पर
पर क्या भैया, पर लग रहे हैं क्या तुम्हारे?
अरे भाई साहब, ये समय झगड़ने का नहीं है, पहले घायल को संभालो। भाई साहब, आप एक काम कीजिए, तुरंत एम्बुलेंस को फोन कर दीजिए और यहाँ का पता ठीक ठाक समझा दीजिए और अपना मोबाइल नंबर भी दे दीजिएगा।
मैं भी 100 नंबर पर पुलिस को फोन करता हूँ। भाई साहब, आप इसकी जेब से मोबाइल निकालकर इसके घर वालों को सूचित कर दीजिए।
हाँ, मैं करता हूँ।
एम्बुलेंस के आने तक चोटग्रस्त व्यक्ति के लिए हर पल बहुत महत्वपूर्ण होता है।
भाई साहब, आप थोड़ी हवा आने दीजिए, प्लीज पीछे हट जाइए।
तुरंत घायल के नजदीक जाकर सिर से पैर तक निगाह डालकर देखें कि कहीं कोई गंभीर चोट तो नहीं लगी है। पास पहुंचकर 10 सेकंड में आकलन करें, व्यक्ति होश में है या नहीं, उसकी सांस चल रही है या नहीं, दिल की धड़कन चालू है या नहीं, कहीं कोई हड्डी तो नहीं टूटी है। अगर व्यक्ति बेहोश है एवं उसकी रीढ़ की हड्डी में गंभीर चोट आई है तो हमें बहुत सावधानी बरतनी चाहिए। कम से कम 2 या 3 व्यक्ति इस तरह से उठाएं कि रीढ़ की हड्डी और गर्दन सीधी एवं स्थिर रहे। रीढ़ की हड्डी को स्थिर रखने के लिए स्ट्रेचर या स्ट्रेचर जैसा कोई हार्डबोर्ड या तख्त का भी इस्तेमाल किया जा सकता है। ये सावधानी बहुत आवश्यक है, अन्यथा हाथ और पैर को लकवा मार सकता है। ऐसे घायल जो बेहोश हैं परंतु रीढ़ की हड्डी सुरक्षित है, उसे 90 डिग्री की करवट पर लॉग रोल करें, यानी किसी भी एक और करवट देकर ऊपर वाले पैर को घुटने से मोड़ दें। इसे रिकवरी पोजीशन कहते हैं। ऐसा करने से जुबान द्वारा रुकावट हट जाएगी, मुंह से खून व थूक स्वतः ही बाहर निकल जाएंगे और सांस की प्रक्रिया सही तरीके से चलती रहेगी। इस जानकारी के अभाव में लोग घायल को सही तरीके से अस्पताल नहीं पहुंचा पाते हैं एवं सांस का रास्ता रुक जाने की वजह से घायल दम तोड़ देते हैं। बेहोशी शुरू होते ही व्यक्ति की जीभ मुंह में पीछे की ओर तालू पर जाकर लग सकती है, जिससे सांस लेने में रुकावट पैदा हो सकती है। तुरंत मुंह खोलकर सिर को पीछे की ओर करें व ठोड़ी को आगे की ओर लेकर जबड़े का निचला हिस्सा ऊपर की ओर उठाएं। ऐसा करने से जीभ से उत्पन्न सांस की रुकावट दूर हो जाएगी। किसी एक व्यक्ति को दोनों पैर 1-1.5 फीट ऊपर उठाकर पकड़े रहने के लिए कहें। इससे पैरों का शुद्ध खून मस्तिष्क की ओर जाएगा और उसे अधिक ऑक्सीजन मिलेगी। हड्डी टूटने पर शरीर के दूसरे अंग को भी स्थिर करने के लिए काम में लिया जा सकता है। जैसे पैर की हड्डी टूटने पर दोनों पैरों को बांध दें, या फिर कमठियों का प्रयोग भी किया जा सकता है ताकि हड्डी को स्थिर रखा जा सके।
भाई साहब, अरे इतनी जोर से चुटकी लेने पर भी रिस्पॉन्ड नहीं कर रहे हैं। मुझे इनकी सांस चेक करनी पड़ेगी। अरे इनकी तो सांस ही नहीं आ रही है। लगता है दिल और सांस दोनों बंद है।
अगर दिल की धड़कन रुक जाए तो 3 मिनट में मस्तिष्क एवं फेफड़ों द्वारा सांस की प्रक्रिया भी रुक जाती है और व्यक्ति को मृत घोषित कर दिया जाता है। दिल एवं फेफड़ों को फिर से चालू करने की प्रक्रिया को CPR यानी कार्डियोपल्मोनरी रिससिटेशन कहते हैं। ये एक जीवनदायिनी प्रक्रिया है।
भाई साहब, आपको मेरी हेल्प करनी पड़ेगी। इन्हें CPR देना पड़ेगा।
दीजिए साहब।
CPR देने के लिए दोनों फेफड़ों की पसलियों को जोड़ती हुई स्टनम बोन के बीचों बीच हथेली पर हथेली रखकर बिना कोहनी मोड़े 1.5 से 2 इंच तक लगातार 30 बार दबाव डालें।
1 2 3 4
दबाव डालते हुए इतना अंतराल रखें कि फेफड़े दबें, फूलें और फिर दबें। जैसे 1 2 3 4 5 ऐसा 30 तक करें। मुंह पर पतला कपड़ा या रुमाल रखकर मुंह से मुंह लगाकर नाक बंद करके 2 बार सांस फूंकें। 1 बार सांस देकर अपने मुंह में ऑक्सीजन भरें और ये प्रक्रिया एम्बुलेंस या चिकित्सक के आने तक लगातार जारी रखें।
21 22 23 24 25 26 27 28 29 30। CPR देकर एक बार तो इनकी सांस चालू कर दी। अब आप नहीं समझ।
यह आपने बहुत अच्छा किया। हम इन्हें हॉस्पिटल ले जा रहे हैं। आप इनके घर वालों को सूचित कर दीजिए।
आवश्यक हो तो CPR की प्रक्रिया एम्बुलेंस में भी लगातार जारी रखें।
इमरजेंसी केसेस प्लीज साइड।
आप चाहे कितनी भी जल्दी में हो, एम्बुलेंस को जाने के लिए पहले रास्ता दें। सर्वोच्च न्यायालय के निर्देशानुसार दुर्घटना का कारण बने वाहन चालक का कर्तव्य है कि तुरंत घायल को निकटतम अस्पताल या चिकित्सक तक पहुंचाए। भारतीय कानून के अनुसार पुलिस के आने से पहले या FIR दर्ज होने से पहले डॉक्टर द्वारा गंभीर घायल को तुरंत सहायता उपलब्ध करानी चाहिए। दुर्घटना स्थल पर मौजूद किसी भी अन्य व्यक्ति द्वारा घायल को अस्पताल पहुंचाने पर जब तक वो स्वयं न प्रक्रिया में शामिल होने के लिए मजबूर नहीं किया जा सकता।
अगर आपकी मदद से एक भी जान बच जाती है तो ये किसी भी पूजा, आराधना, इबादत से बड़ी है।
डॉक्टर साहब, अब वो कैसे हैं?
घबराने की कोई बात नहीं है, खतरे से बाहर हैं और सब ठीक हो जाएगा।
आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया डॉक्टर साहब।
शुक्रिया उस व्यक्ति का अदा करें जिसने इनको सही वक्त पर फर्स्ट एड दी, वरना देर हो जाती तो हम भी कुछ नहीं कर पाते।
हमारे पूरे परिवार की दुआएं उसके साथ हैं। भगवान उसे खूब खुशियां दे।
वो आदमी नहीं, फरिश्ता है। उसने एक जीवन नहीं बल्कि पूरे परिवार को बचाया है।
ये सब ऐसी बातें हैं जो हर एक को सीखनी चाहिए, तभी तो कायम रह पाएंगी खुशियां।
हम सब सीखेंगे ये जीवनदायिनी प्रक्रिया।
इस फिल्म में CPR की जो प्रक्रिया बताई गई है उसमें कुछ संशोधन किए गए हैं जिनका आज के संदर्भ में उल्लेख किया जाना आवश्यक है। पूर्व में CPR की प्रक्रिया में दिल पर दबाव एवं मुंह से मुंह लगाकर फेफड़ों में सांस देना अनिवार्य बताया जाता था, किंतु विस्तृत अध्ययन एवं शोध के बाद विश्व की मान्यता प्राप्त संस्था अमेरिकन हार्ट एसोसिएशन ने यह निष्कर्ष निकाला है कि आम व्यक्ति द्वारा सिर्फ स्टर्नम बोन पर हथेली रखकर दिल पर 1 मिनट में 120 बार छाती पर 2.5 इंच तक का दबाव इस तरह दें कि फेफड़े दबें, फूलें और फिर दबें, जिसे कंप्रेशन ओनली लाइफ सपोर्ट यानी COLS नाम दिया गया है। इंडियन रिससिटेशन काउंसिल ने भी इसे मान्यता दी है। आपका ये प्रयास उस व्यक्ति का जीवन बचा सकता है। धन्यवाद। I'm starting the BB now. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me,
Yes,
please?
ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay, fine. Now, having got my introduction, I don't want to waste much of time. Let me tell you, in the 25 years that I'm working in this field of only life safety, which is a very small subject, though enormous in the sense that road accidents are carrying a heavy toll of human life in the country. And India leads world in road deaths in so many years. So we have received the Influential and Excellence Award from IIT Delhi, IRSC on 31st May 2019. I'm also a member of the National Road Safety Council. So going further on, in India, therefore, it is very necessary that each person should stop at the site of accident. Just because the Good Samaritan law has already been cleared by me in the film, CPR has been cleared, so many other things are cleared. But just because India leads world in road deaths, even we have not been able to come to the expectations of the United Nations 2020 guidelines, which have finished, and now 2020 to 2030 guidelines of the United Nations have been approved by the government of India. So what I'm trying to say, according to Melamed, when you prepare for emergencies, they cease to exist. What do you mean by see? Supposing all of you have taken something from the film and from my presentation and from Dr. Shah's advice, if you stop at the accident site, the Good Samaritan law is there to protect you completely because it's the Supreme Court's decision. So then emergencies are going to cease to exist. They will reduce proportionately in our country. So a basic life-saving course which has been designed by us as the norms of the American Heart Association and European Resuscitation Council guidelines, I'm saying that the brain is the controlling center. You have to know a little bit about the body, a human body. The brain acts as a controlling center, works 24 hours without interruption. Regular supply of oxygen is essential and cannot withstand lack of oxygen for more than 3 to 5 minutes. Heart, 5 liters of blood circulates in the body, out of which 1 liter, loss of 1 liter causes restlessness and palpitations, 1.5 to 2 liters drowsiness, and more than 2 liters causes deaths. Lungs carry blood to the brain from the heart and from the whole of the body. So now I'm going to start how to save a life. Within 10 seconds, you just have to see, are you okay? Are you okay? Tap on the shoulders and see. And also simultaneously look for presence of respiration over the abdomen. This is the best thing. If there's no respiration, then we can assume that the patient is not breathing and the heart and lungs have stopped. So this is the response. Activate the emergency medical services. Call for 108 ambulance.
Dr. Maya, we cannot hear you. Dr. Maya, can you hear me? I think we have lost Dr. Maya. In the meantime, Dr. Sanjay, can you continue your presentation from here on?
Sure, sure, sure.
Okay.
But I will not be able to share the screen.
Just a minute, sir.
Yeah.
Can you please try again?
Yeah. Now can you see the slides? Can you see the slides and can you hear my voice?
We can hear your voice, but we are not able to see the slides, sir.
Just a minute. Let me go back.
We are able to see the slides, sir, actually.
Okay, yeah, because on my screen I was able to. Yeah, okay, fine. So as Dr. Maya ma'am has shown the film, all of you are now much clear what is all about CPR, how to do, because it was shown in the later half of the movie, and my job has been made clear, much clear, because the visual impression lasts more longer than the discussion. But so I'm going to re-emphasize the points and in little bit in more detail what is all about basic life support and CPR. We now already know the importance of CPR. We'll touch upon that, the details of CPR and basic life support, to know about the different other scenarios, what to do in that kind of situation, and a little bit of about trauma care. So why should I learn CPR? Many people will be, having this question, as it was shown in the video, that why should I know? Because see, many times it might be our relative or friend or parent or child who got such kind of problem, and they are into the cardiorespiratory arrest kind of scenario. And if someone is delaying the care, probably will not be able to survive, salvage these victims. So CPR is very important to prevent death and disability in immediate cardiorespiratory arrest kind of scenes. And as a responsible citizen of society, it's our responsibility as well as commitment towards improved care, which is to be provided to every citizen. And more important here is every minute delay without CPR or defibrillation reduces the chances of survival by 10%. So here in this slide, you can see that a single minute of delay reduces the chances of survival from cardiac arrest from 100 to 90. And at the end of, say, for example, 10 minutes, if there is no first aid kind of CPR or defibrillation is being given to the victim, probably even if the victim is being taken to the nearest hospital, then the chances of survival are practically zero. And in case if it survives, then his brain will not be able to function as normal. So as per the American Heart Association guideline, there are certain steps which is being called as chain of survival. The chain of survival means there are 5 steps, and each and every step is having importance of its own, as well as they are correlated with each other at every point of time during the care. So immediate recognition of the cardiac arrest is the first and important measure that victim is requiring emergency care. And the second most associated response at that point of time should be activation of the EMS, that is emergency response system, or 108, or any kind of nearest doctor or hospital's number, so that they can send advanced life support. The second important step is early CPR with the chest compression, very important in it. Third is rapid defibrillation. We'll see a little bit detail of automated external defibrillation, advanced life support, and then the post-cardiac care. So what is CPR? It is as easy to remember as to get a CAB, that is CAB. C stands for compression. Push hard and push fast over to onto the central aspect of the chest. A stands for airway. And to open up the airway is very, very important, and so that we can give a rescue breath. And B stands for breathing. So after opening up the airway, we are going to give 2 rescue breaths. So that is very easy to remember: circulation, airway and breathing, that is CAB. Now, cardiorespiratory arrest can be cardiac, most of the time cardiac in nature, but in pediatric, it might be just a respiratory arrest to start with. So how to diagnose or how to come to conclusion that patient is in arrest? The patient has to be unconscious. The second important, what Dr. Maya ma'am has told, is respiratory arrest, so that there is no spontaneous breathing onto the patient chest or abdomen, that you are not able to see a uprise of the chest during each respiration. And cardiac arrest, that means there is no pulse. What are we going to take about the pulse is carotid pulse onto the neck rather than at the wrist level, which is being radial. So the BLS is to assess the responsive by shake and shout after assuring the scene safety. Many times there would be a fire or earthquake or electrocution where you need to think about the scene safety first, because if scene is not safe, do not jump over, otherwise the number of victims will be more, including you. So never ever jump into the unsafe scene. Once the scene is safe, you try to shake and shout at the victim's shoulder or upper part of the chest if he is moving or responding to it or not. If he is responding, that means patient is nearly semi-conscious or conscious. But if he is not responding, he is unconscious. At the same time, you activate the call for help or 108 or nearest facility. Once that you have done that, the second most important step is to check for the pulse. Just besides the trachea, that is windpipe, lateral aspect or outside of the trachea on one side, if you palpate with your 3 finger, you can check for the pulse. If pulse is present or not, that will decide the CPR to be given or not. If pulse is absent, that means we need to start the chest compression as early as possible. Now we need to understand about the anatomy, that where the heart lies. Heart lies beneath the center portion of the sternal bone, which lies between the 2 rib cages. Okay, and when you put your dominant hand, the heel of the palm should be put on the central aspect of the sternal bone. It is in the male, it is in the trans nipple line. And in female, you just calculate 2 finger breadth above the xiphisternal point, which is the apex of the 2 sides of the rib cage. Okay, when you put the dominant hand heel over that, and then you interface or lock your hands with each other, and do not touch the fingers over to the chest. Okay, only the heel of the palm should be touching onto the center aspect of the chest, that is on the sternum. Okay, this is how the position of the hand should be, keeping the elbow straight 90° to the victim. Okay, so here this should be exactly at the 90° without bending of the elbow. Okay, and then you give a chest compression. Now the chest compression should be 2 inches, 1.5 to 2 inches downwards towards the floor of the surface. Okay, and that is being given as a chest compression, and allowing the passive recoil of the chest after each compression. The calculation of or the rate of the compression should be more than 100, nearly 120. So that means in and around 2 per second. So that means, as in video it was shown, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, something like that, till you calculate 30. Now 30 chest compression to be given. Okay, and then you provide 2 rescue breath. Now if you are trained to do so, you can give 2 rescue breath. If you are not trained, then continue with the only chest compression. Now this is the newer guideline which shows only chest compression. So for layman's, only chest compression is also sufficient enough. If you are trained to, then opening up the airway by head tilt and chin lift will open up the airway. Close the patient's nostril, okay, and give 2 slow mouth-to-mouth breathing, one by one, one after another, 1 second of inspiration and 2 seconds of expiration. Take another breath, and then you provide another breath. Okay, so this will give you a good oxygenation to the patient. If you are scared to provide a mouth-to-mouth, or patient is vomiting, sometimes you can put your handkerchief or you can have a pocket mask device like this, which is readily available, so that it is easy and more effective to provide a mouth to mask respiration. Okay, and continue with the chest compression after providing 2 rescue breaths. So if you have a more than one personnel, it is good. The one person will be continuing with the chest compression 30:2. At the end of 30, the another person will give a 2 rescue breath. Continue for minimum of 2 minutes without any interruption. So start compression within the 10 seconds of recognition of the arrest. Push hard and push fast, at least 100 compressions per minute, and compression depth should be 2 inches for each compression, and allowing passive recoil of the chest at the end of each compression. You should not having any interruption in compression sequence at least for 2 minutes, because at the end of 2 minutes, most of the time, those who are not easily well versed with this practices, you get fatigued. Okay, so then you will not be able to give an efficient CPR. So you interchange your role. The number one person will go into this head end position, and this person will come on to this position. So the compression guy will go on airway, and airway guy will go on the compression side, and resume the CPR with the chest compression till you get the ambulance or advanced care or defibrillation. Now, what is defibrillation? Because without giving defibrillation, it is very difficult to continue and have a successful outcome. Okay, so many times if you have seen such kind of machines, particularly with airport, malls and theaters like that. So this is the AED, which is life-saving machine. So unless the CPR and defibrillation are provided within minutes of collapse, you may not be able to have a successful outcome. And even if CPR is performed, many times defibrillation is required to stop the abnormal heart rhythm. Okay. So when you open up this kind of machine, it might auto start, or you just switch on to the start button. Once you do that, it is being attached with the 2 pads. These are the cardiac pads. Okay, and these are the pad. One, it is being on the picture, or on the pads it will be seen that this is to be applied on the right upper chest, and on this it is on the left lower chest, or just lateral to the heart. Okay, so that's how you apply the chest pads, which will analyze the patient's heart rhythm. At that time of analyzing, the machine will shout or prompt like that, do not touch the victim. Okay, so that it will take another 10 to 15 seconds to analyze the rhythm. And once it is analyzed, it will prompt that shock is indicated or not. If it shows that shock is indicated, that means you stand clear. Do not allow anybody to touch the victim, so that they do not get electrocution. Okay, because this gives us some amount of current, and this is going to pass through the machine, which is being charged, and it will deliver a set joules, or which is traversing through the axis of the heart, and it will deliver the shock. At the end of the shock, it will give a instruction like continue with the CPR for another 2 minutes. Okay, and sometimes the rhythm may not be shockable, so it will give no shock is advised, and follow AED instruction to continue the CPR. You continue till you get a advanced help like doctors or ambulance, or till the victim is being shifted to the nearby hospital. Now, when to stop CPR? Once the pulse comes, or patient become conscious, or if patient starts breathing and has pulse. Many times patient may not become conscious immediately, but it starts breathing and patient has pulse, so you can stop the CPR. But if you are in doubt whether there is pulse or not, you continue with the CPR till you get the advanced help. Once the patient has got revival of from the arrest condition, you need to put them into the recovery position, as it was emphasized in the video as well. So how to do that? Only one person can put this victim into the lateral position or recovery position. On right side of the thing, you abduct the arm and 90-degree flexion of the at elbow level, and then the another arm can be rotated over to the neck, and you flex the knee and hip at 90 degree and use it as a fulcrum, and you rotate towards to your side. So this is how the victim can be put on the recovery position once patient has started breathing, or once the patient has got pulse after CPR. Say for example, patient has not got cardiac arrest, but he is little bit semi-conscious, he has his own breathing and pulse, then also it is advisable to put him in a recovery position to avoid collapse of the airway, so that he can breathe easily and there won't be aspiration of the blood or vomiters into his lungs. Now, if you are continuing CPR and say for example, and revival has not occurred, then how long you should continue? So as far as medical science guidelines are concerned, you should continue for at least 30 minutes of active CPR, or once the advanced life support has arrived. Okay, and in certain conditions like hypothermia or drowning, you or PTE, that is being told as pulmonary thromboembolism, you continue CPR for a longer time than usual time, because the chances of survival even at the longer time of CPR are quite good in certain situations. What is new in CPR? The recent guideline says that hands-on CPR, that means only compression, is also good than CAB. So if you are not trained to provide a rescue breathing, then just compression is also good enough. Encourage use of AEDs. So whenever you people are working, like in your company or in your shop, or if it is large enough having public gathering, you insist that that area should get AEDs. A public awareness program like this Indian Road Safety Campaign, it is very, very important, because without the awareness, all of us are not aware about how to provide CPR and what to act and which conditions we should do. And we should be just a bystander, so we should not become like a moron at that point of time. Try to come forward and help them once you are being trained. So, and always put stress on the post resuscitation care. The once the patient is being shifted to a hospital, allow him to get a best of the post resuscitation care. Now coming from the CPR, there are certain another emergency situation also, like hypothermia, where the patient's temperature is less than 36 degree of centigrade. So in these conditions, sometimes CPR might not be effective till the body temperature goes high. So what you require is you keep the body warm, okay, by keeping them packets of warmers, or rotating them into the warm blanket or electric blankets, whatever is handy with you, and then you continue and transport to a hospital where he can get advanced treatment for improving the patient's core temperature by certain other measures than just covering it up. Because longer CPR in such condition is sometimes quite salvageable, because the patient's body metabolic requirement goes down with the hypothermia. So even at the end of 90 minutes also, patient can become easily conscious once patient revives from this condition. In certain conditions, particularly summer situations, hyperthermia is also quite common, and patient would have a fainting or unconsciousness due to increased body temperature. So you allow him to sleep onto the hard surface, elevate the feet level on 1 or 2 pillows, give them cold compressions, or and give a good fanning so that it reduces the patient's temperature, and shift them to the nearest hospital. So this is another condition where different measures are required. Here you will not be required to give CPR, but the common sense is required, where you elevate the feet, give cold compression and fanning. Now pregnancy might have fainting and other shock condition like that, because of the pressure of the fetus onto the IVC, that is the vein, larger vein into the abdomen, which takes away blood from the lower limb and abdomen into the heart. So here in this condition, you require left lateral position, so that the veins will not get compressed due to the fetus. Okay, so patient should lie on the left side of her posture, so that is called as left lateral position, and she will come out of the shock easily. In electrocution condition, never ever jump on in an unsecured atmosphere without safeguarding yourself, having rubber shoes or a rubber mat, and then you have a wooden stick available with you, so that you do not get yourself into the unsafe situation. And try to get away that running electric current wire, or shift the patient out of that scenario, and then try to help him. How to diagnose stroke. Many of the patient, particularly elderly patient or diabetic patient, early in the morning or while taking a bath, they become unconscious, or they are conscious, but they have a signs like this. That is called as FAST. Easy to remember, FAST. F stands for facial drooping. So there is an inequality of the face on one side with a drooping of the face like facial paralysis on one side of the face. Okay, that is one of the sign. Another sign may be arm drift. Arm drift, when you are asking the conscious patient to keep the arms in front of his or her, then one of the arm will go downwards due to the gravity and due to the lack of the power, and that will get an arm drift lower down. So that is another sign of stroke. And the third sign is speech. When you are asking the victim to speak his name or what has happened to him or her, so he is not able to speak properly, or there is a dysarthria or lack of speech or incoherent speech. So these are the three easiest signs and symptoms to diagnose stroke. Now here is, as in CPR, time is very crucial. Here we say that time is brain. So you should be shifting this patient early to a center where stroke can be diagnosed with a CT scan or MRI earliest, and certain injection like thrombolysis can be given, which will reverse the patient's neurological status. Okay. Seizures, what is being called as epilepsy or seizure, where patient will have a jerky kind of movements of all over the body or one side of the limb or onto the face, that is called as seizure, where patient will have unconsciousness for a while. So you will ask the patient to remain into the recovery position. And here another problem is patient might have a tongue bite. Okay, because there is a clenching of teeth and the tongue is in between the teeth. So you will not insert your finger or try to open by inserting your finger into the mouth. Rather put a wooden stick or some kind of keys or any kind of non-sharp things into the patient's mouth to prevent the tongue bite to happen. Okay. Choking is also important, particularly in restaurants, wherever you are eating fish which is being the bone is being getting stuck into the windpipe, and patient will have a certain universal sign. This is called as universal sign of choking, where patient will show he is not able to speak, but he will show that he is not able to breathe, and that is called as universal sign of choking. When it is severe enough, patient would have a poor or no air exchange, and he will, if he is able to speak, there will be a high pitched noise, okay, like a nasal twang, or sometimes he is absolutely not able to speak, and sometimes patient might turn out to be blue due to the cyanosis. So what is being told or taught is Heimlich maneuver. Heimlich maneuver is standing besides the victim who is being choked, okay, and putting your dominant hand onto the patient's navel, okay, by making a fist over it, and then covering the another hand over your fist, and try to lift the victim off from the ground. Okay, so you need to have a thrust inside his abdomen, down, upwards and backwards by lifting the victim if you can, and if victim is obese, but then at least giving enough thrust upwards and backwards so that there would be an increase in the intra-abdominal pressure, which will push the diaphragm upwards and pushing the intrathoracic pressure into the windpipe so that the choked item will come out easily. Sometimes patient might become unconscious, then you start CPR as being taught. In child, you should, the maneuver is same, but you need to kneel down onto your knees so that you can easily have the same maneuver like Heimlich maneuver. Again, putting the pressure by making a fist over the navel of the victim and giving the thrust upwards and backwards. But if the infant has the same issue, then you need to put it into your lap like this, and then you convert it into a backward position, heading the head downwards, okay, over your knees, and then giving a 2 slaps backward and 2 thrust onto the epigastric region into the front aspect, and doing frequently like this till the choked items comes out. Now, last few slides on trauma care, it has been shown into the videos as well, what is Dr. Maya ma'am has shown. This is a road accident statistic. You all know that more than 1.2 million people are getting killed worldwide. And in India, these are the data where it is not every 3 minutes. Now, recent data shows that one death every 2 minutes and one disability every minute due to the road accidents. And injury is not just a road accident. There are railway accidents, then man-made disasters, riots, and fall from height and so forth, factory mishaps and all that. So injury is one of the very common cause of death, especially young population ranging from 5 to 45 years of age. And we should all come forward by providing basic trauma life support and advanced trauma life support, which is important as platinum 10 minutes and golden hour, that is the first hour after injury. If you provide such kind of efficient care to the injured victim, the survival rate improves by 85% of time. So again, as important as CPR for trauma patient, certain important things like taking care of their spine injury, taking care of their airway, breathing and circulation is very, very important to safeguard these lives. The adult chain of trauma survival is different than the CPR survival. Here you need to give first aid at the scene, then rapidly transport whatever means of rapid transport available, particularly in a country like India. We have more of a road ambulance than air ambulance, and then providing efficient accident and emergency care, earliest surgery and post-operative care. Okay, so what you should do at scene? Call for help immediately. Again, check for the scene safety, because many times it might be a tumbling vehicle or it might be a burning vehicle. So you should take care of yourself first and then jump for the patient's help. Extricate the victim safely. Many times you might not be able to extricate the victim for the four-wheeler or some other bus or something like that, where it is deformed significantly. So it might require gas cutter or it might require fire brigade's help to extricate the victim from the deformed vehicles. Remove tight clothing and make him supine or recovery position onto the flat surface. And now what is important here, there are two school of thoughts. One is scoop and run and another is a play and stay. In early days, particularly from 1970s to 1990s in European countries, play and stay was like very important. Like they were treating the victims bedside at the site of accident, but that was not helpful to improve the patient's condition, because most of the time you require certain gadgets for monitoring and treating this way. So what is now important is scoop and run. So you bring the ambulance as early as possible at the site of accident and bring this patient immediately to the nearest hospital. Do not panic, remain calm and call for help. Don't leave the scene of accident till the victim is being shifted into the ambulance. Do not remove any impaled object. This is very, very important. Many times certain deformed vehicular aspect or a handlebar or something like that might be impaled into the patient's body. Do not remove. The doctor or surgeon will remove inside the theater. Okay, and do not pour any water onto the unconscious patient, because patient might stop breathing and it may go into the lungs. Now this is very important to prevent further injury to the spine. This is called a spine board. This is a cervical collar which is being applied to prevent the cervical spine injury, and this is a head immobilizer, or you can keep a toweled bricks, something like that, besides the patient's head, so that the head remains stable. And in this condition, patient should be shifted to through the ambulance into the hospital. You should immobilize the fracture by using umbrella or long wood sticks or patient to be splintered onto the spine board. For upper limb fracture, you can use the zoli or some kind of ladies dupattas and all that. Elevate the injured limb which is fractured, so that it prevents further swelling and further bleeding. If that is bleeding, give compression bandage. That means tight bandage, whatever is handy with you, like dupatta or sari or kind of a handkerchief, whatever is available, give a tight bandage over to the bleeding side. And if it is not sufficient, then try to manually compress the bleeding side, which will stop bleeding and shift this patient to a nearest hospital. If you have any questions, we will be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. Thank you, Dr. Shah, for such a wonderful explanation. I mean, I, on a personal front, found this session to be quite informative, and I'm sure the audience share the same views as me as well. Opening the floor to the audience, Mr. Rajesh Baid had a question. Because of the pressure, is it possible for the for the bones to crack? Is what he's asking.
No, bones, mostly it will come out into the bolus only, whatever has been swallowed and stuck up. So what we are generating a pressure is transmitting through the diaphragm into the chest, and that will have enough expiratory volume. That means when we expire, that is having around 500 ml of air. When you give enough pressure, it will generate a pressure with the forced expiration, which will allow impelled bone, or which is being lying into the windpipe, particularly upper windpipe, which gets easily come out. And I myself has a one experience, though I do not eat non-veg, but one of the conference where I had gone into the Kolkata particularly, and then one of the co-partner in another table had the same kind of choking sensation, and I had a privilege to do a Heimlich maneuver once in my lifetime. So saving a life is giving you a huge satisfaction by just simplest measure, rather than watching something and because many times medical help takes at least 10 to 15 minutes to arrive, or asking a victim to a nearest hospital. So it is easy to help if you know, and certain times simple measures like this can help a lot.
Okay, I hope that answered your query. Mr. Abdul had a question: how to know that the neck bone is broken or not?
See, it is very difficult. I cannot expect layman's that the neck bone is injured or not to diagnose at the site of scene or site of injured victim. What we are going to assume that every patient has got cervical spine injury if patient is unconscious or patient was having significant head injury. So that means you assume that there is a cervical spine injury and give enough protection, like giving a cervical collar, putting him into the spine board, because by doing so, it is going to help, if at all. If it is not going to injure further. Now it is in the hands of doctors with the gadgets like X-ray or CT scan that you can diagnose, or you can try to rule out that whether the spine is injured or not. Because for laymen, we do not expect to rule out the cervical spine injury at the scene.
Okay.
Yeah. Can I speak something?
Please, ma'am.
Yeah. You see, Akhil told me that few of my slides had been left. I could not reach till the end. Very good this thing, because Dr. Shah has really put in a lot of things which were to be learned by the bystanders. One thing which I want to say is, I had spoken in the end, but probably you could not see. In case of emergency, are 3 numbers which everybody can put in their mobiles, and especially with Android and smartphones, it's very, very easy for us to put them as on wallpapers. But even in ordinary phones, you all can put anybody can put on a wallpaper the phone number of the family members. So this part I had covered, but probably you all could not listen to me. But then in case you put, it is easier for everybody to call the relatives through the in case of emergency numbers, which is available on Google as a this thing. Another thing which has been discussed by Dr. Shah also about the spinal injury, I would like to say that it is not possible for us to find out, but in case you neglect a spinal injury, and if, in case the person is taken like in an auto where you're shaking the person and taking to the hospital, then probably the injury can lead to complete paralysis of the limbs. And once the paralysis take place, and that if that is the only person who's an earning member, then the whole family goes below poverty lines for generations to come. And that is very, very important thing which we normally emphasize upon, that these things should be taken care of. These are small things. I'd also touched upon AED, but the way he has been able to explain on AED, it is also very important for everybody to take care that at the airport the AED are available. Nobody knows how to use them. So AED must come into the general use, and people must know, and you're all very educated people. We must be able to reduce road accident lives, which are so very important. And we are still leading world in road deaths, and we have not been able to show a decline in most of the states, and we must work hard on it. Yes, over to you, Akhil.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing such a vital information. I mean, these are just little steps which we all can ensure in saving lives. Ma'am, I have a question for you. Mr. Manoj is asking, is it recommended to remove a helmet after crash, not knowing what might have happened?
Yes, very much. You see, 20 to 30% of the public in India, and especially not only the youth, even those people who are going in small places inside the cities, they are all using this thing, two-wheelers and helmets. And that's why what the government, Ministry of Road Transport and Highways is recommending is the Bureau of Indian Standards type of helmet. But whatever type of helmet is being used, the manner in which I have shown that you put one hand over the chin and open the strap and put the hand, another hand beneath the neck, and definitely it works very well if the, not only that the helmet has been removed, thereafter the care to be taken, the helmet must be removed. Otherwise, it's going to cause more injury to the patient. So taking it out and keeping the head steady till such time that you're given reach to the hospital and taken MRI or whatever has to be done, and to be seen that the doctors take over till such time the head can be kept stable, so that no paralysis of this, not only cervical, even lower down thoracic area also, in case you have not taken any care, the lower limbs are not will be paralyzed. So paralysis of limb legs, because the small spicules of bones which are there in the spinal vertebrae, the spinal vertebrae gets damaged, and small spicules of bones slowly while you are transferring the patient to the hospital, that takes place. So removing the helmet and spinal injury, both are very, very important.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Sanjay, Mr. Yuganan wants to know, how do we avoid tongue biting in case of epilepsy? Dr. Shah, you're muted. Dr. Shah?
If Dr. Shah is not there, I'll be able to answer.
No. Yeah. Because
sure.
I was not allowed
Yes,
to unmute. Yeah.
Yes,
yes, Akhil, what was the question? I just...
Dr. Shah, I want to know, how do we avoid tongue biting in case of epilepsy?
Tongue bite usually occurs during the seizure or epilepsy, and when a person is into the seizure, you should not put your fingers into the victim who is getting seizure to open up the mouth, but most importantly is to put some kind of wooden object or non-sharp thing which is rigid enough to put into the between the two incisors. Okay, so that will not allow a closure of the teeth, and that will prevent the tongue bite. Anything which is handy, but it should be rigid enough and it should not be sharp enough so that it prevents the tongue bite.
All right. Ma'am, we'll have one last question, which is to you. From your point of view, among the 4 components which you mentioned, engineering, education, enforcement, and emergency care, which component plays a major role in controlling fatal accidents in India?
In case we think in terms of the Indian continent, it is the roadside, the engineering part. Because you see, our roads are not really today as good as we think they ought to be. And especially the black spots and the holes and maintenance and this thing between the government departments. One person will see to some place, there'll be one hole somewhere, pothole will be there. And so engineering part is the most important. Emergency care comes a little late, but from my point of view, why emergency care is important and why from more than 25 years, I'm only sticking to this small aspect is because it's a medical subject. So in case this thing is not known to y'all, how are y'all going to know that unconscious victim has to be rolled on? How will you know that if a seizure takes place on the road, how will you take care of that? So emergency care from my point of view is important in the fact that it has not been publicized well. But in case we think from the point of view of our country, it is the roads which have to be taken very care. Even on highways, there are so many places where, some rollers are there, some accident has taken place, is not being taken care of. The people are not using dippers and all these things, and lights are not good. So many things are there, as a result of which the PWD engineering and that part is there. Very, very important that that should be taken care of. But from our point of view, emergency medical care is no less. So we don't say which is more important. It all depends what type of accident takes place and how the person suffers and what are the circumstances which prevails at the site of accident. That's more important. And shifting the patient to the pavement is very important. I mentioned in the beginning that if you shift the patient, then there'll be no crowding. And crowding should be avoided at the site of accident. That is also very important. So looking to the overall scenario, what is the prominent thing that is lacking at that time leading to a road accident, and how it has to be obviated, has to be seen as per circumstances. That's what I can say.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your views. One common request which I see on the chat box is, since many of the audience members found the PPT quite informative, we request both of you to share the PPT so that it is of much help to the audience members.
Sure. Would be happy to do that.
Yeah, same this side. Akhil, if they really want our numbers at the end of this thing, my landline is there, and even Dr. Shah, you would also, if they want your number and my number, then also they can share it over. And of course, I'll share my complete PPT, because due to shortage of time, I decreased the slides and restricted myself to certain things because both of us had this thing. We'll definitely share the PPT with the IRSC, and they can forward it to anybody else. Thank you so much.
That's wonderful, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Shah. Thank you, Dr. Maya, for sharing views on such an important issue.
Thanks, Akhil. You've taken a lot of pains.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
It's nice,
Okay,
no
nice
issues,
gesture,
man.
and it is very important. Yeah.
Last but not the least, I would like to conclude today's session by thanking all the participants for your presence. And we hope to see you again for the next installment in our quest to make the roads safer for each and every citizen of India. Thank you.
Thank you.